It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Georgia Southern assistant volleyball coach, Coach Efrain Negron. How are you doing today?
Good. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching college women's volleyball?
Yeah. To be honest, I think I knew as soon as I got to my freshman year of college that I wanted to get involved with volleyball in general. And I was already going to be playing college, but once I got to work with the women's team at Lees-McRae, that kind of just opened the door for me. Like, I really like teaching, or I really like to kind of coach the sport. And but I also was influenced by, I think, my high school coaches, my club coaches, not just for volleyball, but other sports that I played as well. And then my mom also was a coach in high school. And so I just think I've always loved being around the sport or being around, sports in general. And so I love this atmosphere. And so I think as soon as I got to college, I knew right away, it's like, yeah, like I'm going to do something related with sports. But definitely by the end of my freshman year, I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to coach after I'm done with my volleyball career or done playing.
What was it like, obviously, playing college volleyball at Les-McRae?
Yeah, so Lees-McRae, man, it was awesome. It was something that I wish I always tell our players, like I wish I could go back and just do it all over again, because I really enjoyed myself there. It's something, I think, college athletics in general, and when you're a division, whether it's Division I, Division II, Division III athlete, it's just fun. Like I miss I miss my teammates. I just miss when we would get to travel, when we get to go play bigger schools. But I love my time at Lees-McRae. Like I said, I will go back in a heartbeat and just do it all over and experience it again. Because I miss it. I miss it so much. Like it's still thinking about it. Like even sometimes in games, like I'm like, man, I want to play. Like I want to get that competitive feeling again. Of preparing for teams or practicing. Like I love practicing. So I loved it.
Of course, what were some of your accomplishments, and what was it like putting on that jersey for them?
Oh, wow. Accomplishments. Unfortunately, we never got to win a conference championship. But we were able to beat, a few big schools. That was kind of fun as a team. And then, I had my own individual accomplishments. I was a 3-time all-conference player. Got to, I think I still hold some of the records individually for my position as a libero. So I still hold some records there. But yeah, all team, all conference. I got first team all conference, I think my sophomore year, and then second team and all conference my junior and senior year. So I would say that was some of this individual accomplishments that I had. And then team, we got some big W's, but we can never put together a run when it came to the conference tournament to try to win the conference championship. We had a lot of talent, just could never put it together to get the ultimate title that we wanted. But
of course, looking back on your college career, what is it like, obviously, knowing that some of your records obviously have been broken with the future people, but some of your records are still there standing?
Yeah, I don't think it was something I've never really give it thought. Like, I think anytime that I go out there and put my jersey on, it was just like to be the best player I could be that day, or, that year, or whatever it may be. Like, I never thought about it record wise. I would just for myself as a former libero, like I just wanted to get as many digs as possible because I knew that was what's going to help my team win. And so, they get broken. They get broken. I mean, I think records are always meant to be broken by whoever follows you next. I haven't really kept track if somebody's close or whatever. Like if somebody gets them, somebody gets them. But it's just one of those things that I never really thought about it. I never strive for it. It was more of you play your game and then whatever happens, happens. And I was content with that.
Of course, coming out of college, what was it like getting your first start at Appalachian State as a volunteer assistant?
Yeah, it was awesome. I think that was definitely one of my biggest growth year in regards to going from player to a coach. Because sometimes us player, a lot of things naturally. And yes, like we have our coaches that are going to try to teach us some things, but there was some stuff that I would be doing as a player, then as a coach, I'm like, I don't know how to teach you how to do this. Like I just do it. Like just watch me do it and try to go do it. And so I quickly realized that that's not how coaching works. That's not how like certain players just don't get it that way. So for me, like coaching at App and that volunteer year, like it just helped me like just grow and watch the head coach at that time, Matt Jennebro, and currently my boss and our head coach Chad, because he was the associate. Like I would just sit back and watch him coach and teach, and I would ask so many questions. I was always curious about how to teach this. How do you go about doing that? Like, so it was a learning process, and I just learned so much because it helped me like actually teach the game and how to get my foot in the door and how to go about it. And even during the season, like I learned how to scout. I learned how to, think a week worth of practice or how to prepare for a team, how to prepare our girls for conference, for a conference run, and all that fun stuff. So looking back, like that was one of like that year it was just unbelievable, just for how much I learned and grew as not clearly just as a coach, but also as a person. And kind of, I took some of that stuff from App that I learned. I took it to other places.
Of course, what was that like, obviously getting your start at Appalachian as a Division I volunteer coach versus obviously staying in your Division II area?
Yeah, it's different. Like everybody always talks about how Division I volleyball just operates at a different level, whether it's the responsibilities, the resources that you have, all of that just comes into play, and you try to take it and you go with it. So I'm glad that and it's not like I went to a big Power 5 school to do my volunteer year where there's a lot of resources, there's a lot of help. Like I did my volunteer year at a mid-major where there's not as many resources, there's not as much help, I should say. Like we have to do it. We have to do the food, we have to do like the travel, we have to book all that, like the jerseys, the laundry, like all that stuff is done at the team level. And so those are all stuff that like it just helps you be grateful for, because if I was to go to another institution at a lower level, like I understand like now, like this is what you don't have as much help, so you have to do it yourself, and you have to be okay with that. Like that was something that we embraced at App for that year. So
of course, coming off of that volunteer year at Appalachian, what was that like going to Bowling Green?
Oh, it was a blessing. Like looking back, like that was probably after we got done with our season as a volunteer. Like it was so stressful because, now it's time to go get a paid job. And I was so open to, if it takes me to California or it takes me like West Coast or take me up north or wherever it may take me, I'll say I'm open to it. Like I don't care. But I got very, very lucky that Daniela Thomas, the head coach at Bowling Green, she gave me an opportunity, and I was able to come in and just help her. I don't want to say rebuild, but she was coming off to not so good seasons, and she hired two new assistants. She hired Alex Opiumbo and then myself, and we were just kind of we come in and we were able to rejuvenate her, I think, and rejuvenate the program a little bit and help her. And we were able to turn it around. And I love my time at BG, and I learned so much under her leadership. And she's an amazing coach, but she's also just an amazing person. And I still talk to her, not daily, but we'll keep in base. We'll keep in touch a lot. I try not to bug her as much because they're busy. But no, I love my time at BG, and it was a fun experience. Specifically that was my first year as a full-time assistant coach, and she gave us a lot of responsibilities, and a lot fell on our plate, which was kind of awesome to see that she trusted a 25-year-old, 24-year-old guy to just go do his thing or whatever.
Of course, what was that like, obviously going to the Power 5 area and going into the ACC to coach with Clemson?
Yeah, so after, we had a really good season at Bowling Green, we turned it around, and I never had the intentions to leave. I'm one of those that I think even at that age, at 25, like I was just like, I'm happy to be here. I'm really happy. I got some really good friends here. And I think it was April 2017. There was a new staff being hired at Clemson, and I got a call to come interview, and I interviewed, and I got the offer, and I accepted it, and it was cool because I've always wanted to challenge myself to coach at the highest level possible, and clearly jumping into a Power 5 in the ACC, the level of volleyball, it takes a little step up because there's better players, higher IQ. The scouting is different. The recruiting changes because now you're recruiting different level type of athletes in order to keep up and make a run, at the NCAA tournament. But it was fun. It was a good time being around, specifically, the other sports in Clemson, because all the sports at Clemson are really, really good. Not just football, because you got the soccers of the world, the basketball we're doing well. So it was a unique time to go coach at Clemson, and I enjoyed it myself too.
Of course, what was that like, obviously coaching at Clemson and coaching against obviously those big schools like Carolina, Duke, NC State? Yeah,
it kind of goes back to with the volleyball part clearly being better than at a mid-major, which is normal. It's the elephant in the room. Everybody knows it. But it was really sweet because I got to, you had to prepare more. You had to put in more hours on scouting, on how to actually get to know a team or your opponent. So all the prep work just took a lot more time. But I also, being a fan of sports, I got to go to some pretty cool gyms. I've been to UNC before prior to that because I worked their camps, but I've never been to Coach K court. So we got to play in Coach K court, and that was so cool. Just going and visiting. It was like a kid at a candy store looking at all the basketball stuff and playing them. But I think the other part of it is I didn't not just do Carolina, NC State. Pittsburgh's really, really good in volleyball. Notre Dame, we also had Louisville that was really, really good. So there was a lot of other programs in that conference that were, just as good, and that were at the top of the conference at the time that we had to go compete against, and that were honestly going in the NCAA tournament. And Florida State too. Florida State is known as a powerhouse as well in the ACC. So you had them, you had Miami. Syracuse was also very good that year, and so it was fun to go compete against high level quality teams. And kind of you have to test yourself as a coach because you got to be able to keep up with them, and you got to be able to train the kids and recruit. I think that was the biggest thing about going to that level in the ACC. Is just you have to recruit, and you gotta be able to keep up and hopefully recruit the right kids so you can beat those teams.
Of course, during your time at Clemson, what was just some of your roles as a defensive coordinator?
Yeah, so that included, all sorts of scouting for other teams. So watching a lot of films, hours and hours of films, usually 3 to 5 games on opponents weekly for each team. So that was one of the biggest things. As far as practices, clearly helping the staff on how are we going to defend certain players or what are we going to do against who we're trying to serve, how we're trying to attack, whether it's an outside hitter or if it's a libero that we're going for, or just different passers from a serving aspect, but then how are we going to defend our attackers? So that was some of the things that that I would say I was responsible for with the staff as well. I don't want to say it was like specific to me because we all came together to like, this is how we're going to do it and coming up with a scouting report. And then in practice, clearly I get to play and kind of just help with that. So that was always fun. And then in game, like it was making a lot of blocking calls and just talking to our players, just letting them know about what's happening, what's coming next. I will keep rotational track myself just to helps me understand what to call next or what's going to happen, what is certain teams trying to do to us or how they're trying to attack us. And so those are all things that kind of I was responsible for. And then clearly you have recruiting is one of the biggest responsibilities there, but that doesn't go with the defensive coordinator part.
Of course, what was the transition like from going from Clemson as a Power 5 ACC school to going to Georgia Southern?
Yeah, it's a little bit different because I'm going from, I went from, a school that has a lot of resources, right, to now going back to a mid-major where you're maybe limited or doesn't have as much help, you can say. That's what people, when we talk about resources. But I don't know, to me, it's volleyball. So like, it's just, it could be different because you're not playing the same level teams, but you're training, you're competing, you're practicing, you're preparing for opponents in the same way. But for me, going from Clemson to Georgia, or coming here to Georgia Southern, I think the biggest thing is like, I got to work, I came in with Chad, who is somebody that I worked with at App State. And then I also came in with Taylor, with somebody who I've known for over 12 years because we come from the same area, the same club back in high school. And so I get the opportunity to work with two friends and two people that I know very, very well, and we're very close. And so that was an awesome opportunity that not a lot of people get. And so, but at the end of the day, it's volleyball. Like I don't think try not to think about it too much about how different it is. Like you're just limited with certain resources or, whether it's how you eat, how you travel, but at the end of the day, we get to practice and train. So I'm thankful for that.
Of course, how has that been? Like, obviously, as you said, that you knew the coach prior to, and you also know Taylor prior to obviously coming to Georgia Southern.
Yeah. Oh man, like it's a blessing because having that experience of working with him, and clearly Chad and I always kept in touch even after those years after I left App State. And so coming here, it was like nothing fell off. Like he expected us to do our jobs and he trusts us, which I think is huge. And so it's different. Like you get to work with somebody that you already trust, you already know. So there's, is there going to be, little, I don't want to, not like, there's always going to be conversations about how do we want to go about things and discussions, and we just talk about it and then we move forward about how we're going to go building this program. But it was a unique place because we were taking over a program that used to be a powerhouse when they were in the SoCon, and that's historically has been good. So just like I told him, I said, no, like I can't wait to just build this place up and start it from scratch and make it our own, and let's see where we can take it. And I think 3 years later, we can look back and be like, yeah, like it's been hard and it's been a fun process, but we turned the ship around. But I think, as we like to say, like the best is still ahead. So the best is yet to come. So I'm excited to see what's next. for this program this upcoming season.
Of course, what does a typical game day look like for players, and then what does it look like for coaches at Georgia Southern?
Yeah, so for the players, we always we just call it open gym, but we have some open hours in the morning. Usually they have to work around class schedule, so we'll come in the morning, just get some touches, serving, passing. If some of the hitters want to get some reps, like we allow them to get some reps, unlimited jumps. So that's kind of like their game day, and then we'll have our pregame food. It depends on the time of the game, but they'll come in a little bit, about 3 hours before game time. They get their meal, and then we let them do their thing. So they have to go get rehab treatment, and then we'll meet an hour prior to the game, and then they'll go through warm-ups and then game time. And I think for coaches, it's like, we come in with them for those open hours, and then if there's any last minute preparations that we feel like we need to do, like, I know all three of us will watch a little bit of film here and there. We try not to overanalyze it too much. But if we feel like we need to watch something, we'll watch. And that's really it. And then we just pregame, and then just game time pretty much. And then, yeah, that's I think it's pretty simple for our game day. What does like a game day look like?
Of course, who are some of the teams that you face in your conference?
Some of the things we face in our conference. So as of right now, because I know with the conference alignments, that's going to change. But we have the Texas States, we have Texas State, Coastal Carolina, App State, Georgia State, Troy, South Alabama, Louisiana Lafayette, Louisiana Monroe. We used to have, because they will be leaving, but Texas Arlington and Little Rock. We have Arkansas State, Monroe. I think I cover everybody, and then clearly us. And then we just recently added Southern Miss, Marshall, JMU, and Old Dominion to the Sun Belt. So it's changing a little bit. And then UTA and Little Rock are leaving. So,
of course, what is that like? Obviously, getting to play Georgia Southern being so close, but also what is that like? Also, is going back to Appalachian State and playing Appalachian.
Yeah. Our first year was weird because I think personally, like that's who gave me my first, it's my volunteer. It was my first experience. So I know it meant a little bit more for Shad and Taylor because they actually spent 3 years there together, where I only spent, 8 months. But it was like almost like going back home because Lees-McRae is only about 20 minutes from App State. And so clearly I spent about 5 years of, from my college playing years, and then 1 year or half a year there for my volunteer year. So it was like going back home, and it was definitely interesting. Just going back with a different school. Well, the funny part is when I was in 2018 in Clemson, we went up to App and we played them there as well. So that I think that took a little bit off from the weirdness or the weird vibes that I had. But going back and now having to play them, it's still, sometimes it feels off because that was the first school that I started at. But I think you move on from it, and it's just like any other team. I want to beat them just as bad. So,
of course, what is that like getting to play Coastal Carolina and Georgia Southern?
Yeah. So Coastal, we have so many good teams in the conference right now, like with Coastal and Texas State, and adding JMU, and South Alabama had a great year. Troy it's also a good program. So it's good volleyball. I think one thing with Coastal is that they have international players that are really, really good and turn out to go play professionally. And so no, it's good. It doesn't take anything away from all the preparation and how we have to recruit and what we have to do to beat those programs. So,
how is that like? Obviously, playing your in-state team, Georgia State.
It's cool. It's been kind of like a little rivalry. Clearly, I think in the department, there's always that rivalry between Georgia State and Georgia Southern. But for us, like I don't try to think of it so much as a rivalry. Like we just just another opponent that we have. I know the girls get fired up, and there's always some bragging rights around with the fans. But I think as coaches, like, we don't try to think or add too much about it. Like, it's just another team that we have to go out and play and beat.
Of course, can you talk about the culture that you've helped build for the Georgia Southern program?
Yeah. Oh man, it's been special. And it's all credit to Chad and how he goes about things. But it's pretty much just we're open, we're genuine, we're real people, and so that's something that he took pride on as we come in here about how we're just going to serve. We're going to serve the people first. We're going to serve our players first, and it's going to be about the people and the relationship that we have here. And so it's been special that now in year 3, like all we talk about was the team culture and being player led and just the leadership at that level. Where looking back now, like it's paid off. Because as we've gone through complex year, like it's made the team better. It's made us better. But it's pretty much what you see is what you get with us as a coaching staff. So when we first got here, I don't want to say we joked about it with the players, but I think they expected us like to kind of be different in a way of like, oh yeah, like they all seem nice and very fun and all that. But eventually that's going to die off. And 3 years later, it hasn't died off. Like, we're still the same people that came in 3 years ago, just maybe a little bit more mature and a little bit slimmer down, but we're still the same people, and we have fun and we have a good time and we have a great relationship with our players. And so it's always been about the people here. And then Chad always says all of us is a small part of what we do. And so, we believe that. And so we hammer the relationship part, and then the volleyball part will come with it.
What does the recruitment process look like for prospective student athletes looking to play college volleyball?
Yeah, clearly. So a lot of it happens at the club level. And so it's, they clearly, to play at the Division I, you got to have a certain level of skills and a certain talent level with different positions. That all varies, but they go to club tournaments and all these qualifiers, and you kind of just go out and you watch people play, and the kids will do their best to perform. But that's kind of what it looks like. Clearly, like we'll go watch kids at tournaments, and then when we bring them on campus, like at the end of the day, like they're not going to spend so much time with us. Like we'll meet with players or recruits. They got to go meet with the strength and conditioning staff. They got to go meet with the academic advisor. They get to meet with some people in admin. They get to and then at the end of the day, campus tours, but also interact with the players the most. Because if somebody's coming here, that they're just going to spend time with the players. They're what they spend with us is 2 hours or 2 hours a day, an hour and a half a day, and we have practice. So, for like a full week, they get to spend max of like 10 hours with coaches, where the rest of those hours are with their players and their teammates. And so that's kind of what the recruiting process, if they were to come play for us.
Of course, what are some of the things that you look at in these prospective student athletes when you're on the road looking at them?
Yeah, clearly the talent level, that's always going to be the first thing that sticks out. I think that's the obvious one. I don't want to say that's the easy one, but it kind of is, because we can tell immediately if somebody's, like that person can help us, or that person can come play for us, or that player, that's a Division I volleyball player, or that's a high major kid. So I think that's pretty easy, but we look at that from a perspective of how do they treat others? Are they good teammates? And I think one that people, you see a lot of tweets and coaches talk about it, but it's just the parents, like what type of family are they coming from? Because we're recruiting the player, but we're also recruiting the parents. So it's like when they get here, like what type of parents are we going to be dealing with? And then at the end of the day, when they get here, like we treat them like adults. So they're adults to us. They're 18-year-old, and they got to make life decisions and choices. So those are some of the things that we look for as we go out and recruit. And it all varies by position, clearly. But I would say those are the major things that we try to look at and judge, if that's what you want to say.
Of course, when these prospective student athletes are on the official visit, what does the official visit look like for them?
Yeah. So they'll kind of, like I mentioned earlier, they'll meet with us as a staff. We'll give them a campus tour. They'll meet with academic advisor, strength conditioning. We'll go out to lunch. And then depends on if they're staying overnight or whatnot. Like we hand them off to our players. And whether we kind of let them do their thing, whether they take them out to do fun stuff, or it's a little bit, if there's athletic events, they'll go to athletic events and we'll take them to athletic events. But that's kind of what it looks like. And it's just, trying to get to know them, see if they're a right fit for us, and also see if we're the right fit for them. But nothing crazy, nothing out of the ordinary.
Of course, as a coach, what is that like, obviously, seeing those players put on that royal blue Georgia Southern jersey?
Oh, it's fun. Like I think now that we have all the kids that are on our roster are kids that we have recruited, and we always talk about it with them. Like it's just cool that 2 years ago they were committing and now they're here and they get to be around us and go out and compete. But it's a good feeling, specifically when all the work that they put in weekly, and not just in practice, but the weight room, the conditioning aspect. And so we always tell them, like, being a Division I athlete is one of the hardest things that they will ever do in their life, but it's going to be one of their, like, the most rewarding thing they'll ever do as well.
Of course, what are some of the future plans for Georgia Southern volleyball?
Well, the plan is to win a conference championship this fall, or in the future. But that's going to be that's kind of like the end picture, right? Or like not the end. It's always going to keep going. But that's one of the biggest goals that we came here, was to build this place into a powerhouse, back to what it was. We want to make this a top 50 program, top 30 mid-major, and college volleyball. And so that's always going to be the goal, and that's always what we're striving for. If we win along the way, we'll win it. But we just want to continue to build the relationships that we have here, and just give these kids, a great 4-year experience, something that they'll remember for the rest of their lives. Because at the end of the day, when you're done with volleyball, you're just going to look back and just remember how about the memories and the experience you have with your teammates, and you'll remember the wings and you'll remember the rings. But I think what you'll value will be the relationships that you build with your teammates.
Of course, what advice would you give prospective student athletes that are in high school looking to play college volleyball?
Oh, so if I was to look back, I think something that this, from my experience as a former recruit, I think play as many sports as possible. I think there's a lot of, and not clubs or anything, but I think parents think like, oh, like you have to do so much for volleyball this, volleyball that, where I think you're starting to see the better athletes are those that play multiple sports. And then you can later on as you get older in high school, then you can kind of go into, I'm doing volleyball only for the next 2 years, and then you get to focus on that. But that's one of the biggest advice, just like play as many sports as you can. And, clearly once you go to a specific sport with volleyball, once you dedicated just full time to volleyball, then try and get as many reps as possible, be at practice, try and get better. Just strive to be the best version that you can of yourself and as a player, and you see where it takes you. Like, just work hard, and you kind of let whatever happen. But just at least you can always look back and be like, I tried my best, I did my best.
What advice would you give those college athletes now that are looking to go from playing college volleyball to professional volleyball, whether it's Athletes Unlimited or going internationally?
Yeah, no, I think the fact that we have such a league like the Athletes Unlimited here, it's kind of hard to give them advice, but I would tell them, like, if there's opportunities out there, Like if you want to play professionally, there's opportunities for there's overseas, kind of what you talked about. Like it's just a matter of what you really want to do. And if you want to put in all the work to go do that, like if we have players that they want to continue to play, like we tell them like, all right, like this is what you're going to have to do. Like it's just not just do the bare minimum. We just practice, from whether it's 235 and that's it. Like, no, you have to do the extra work. Like you got to come in for extra reps on your own. The stuff that people don't see outside of our practice hours. But I think like I wanted to play professionally and I didn't get the opportunity to do that just because my position doesn't pay a whole lot of money. And so that was like, yeah, like if I do this for 3 or 4 years, like I'll just, the only thing I'll get out of it is just that I was a professional athlete. But luckily I made the right decision that I wanted to go straight into my career. But I think there's opportunities for them out there, and it's just a matter of that's something that they want to do afterwards, and after they're done, and if that's what they want to do, then I think there's a lot of work that they're going to have to put in because it's getting competitive.
What advice would you give those future college coaches looking to coach college volleyball?
I think finding the right people to be surrounded by. I think finding great friends that are going to help you and are going to help you grow, that are going to push you and going to hold you accountable. And I think along with that is finding mentors. I know that kind of goes along with friends, but I think finding mentors are people that have been doing it for a long period of time that can help you just along the process and look back and ask them a lot of questions. Be curious about what would they do differently as they look back into their careers. Because I think looking back, that's something I will do a little bit different. Maybe I think I did a really good job of just networking myself and going to camps and meeting new people. But like I should have looked more to a mentorship role, which I do now more. Now that I'm older, but I think going back and starting younger, like I will just try to get mentorship, just have people guide you. And then if they're really like looking to start immediately after college, like I think the route that I went, going to be a volunteer coach, like that was one of the best decisions I've ever made. Because I just learned so much about coaching and how to operate and how to actually teach the game. Because if I wouldn't gone to a full-time job immediately after playing, I probably would have failed really, really bad because I had no idea what I was doing. And so that would be one of the biggest things. If they can go volunteer or go learn under a specific coaching staff or program, like that's the best way to go. And then they'll prepare you for what's next because you want to be as prepared as possible. If not, you'd be blindsided.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the Georgia Southern volleyball program at?
Yeah, for our program, I think it's GS Athletics _VB on Twitter. And then on their Instagram, I think it's GS Volleyball. It's our Instagram accounts. And then personally, I have Twitter and Instagram. And so I think for Twitter, I think it's just my first name and then my last name and then like VB. So I think it's like Efrain _Negron VP. And then my personal account is on Instagram. It's just like Negron4, I think. So that's where they can find the program and then personally myself.
Thank you again, Coach Efrain Negron, for your interview and best of luck in your future with the Georgia Southern volleyball program.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Efrain, for your interview and best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.